Here comes Deaxz and Quix.
Either
Coming
that or
at
you
you
learn
fast with a podcast. Break it down, get it in your ears now fast. Quix, Deaxz, cast, pods.
Welcome back to Two in the Basement, a Dead by Daylight podcast. I am your host, Deaxz, and I do have my other co-host with me this week, Mr. EasyQuix. Welcome him on back, everybody. Say hello, Quixie.
Hey guys, I'm back.
Finally, he's back. We've got him. We've managed to snatch him up, and we're ready to talk all things Resident Evil chapter in Dead by Daylight. How's everything going?
It's been good, mate. Glad to be back. Exciting things to talk about today, especially the Resident Evil chapter, which has been out for a few weeks now, but we haven't had a chance to chat about it. So,
no, we haven't. We're going in blind.
Yeah,
we got some thoughts down, but we haven't really talked about it much with each other. So we are excited for not only you guys to hear our thoughts, but to share our thoughts with each other. So I will crack straight into it. What's your overall thoughts? Nalopa and I talked about the upcoming chapter and our thoughts. You said you had a bit of a listen there. What's your thoughts going into the chapter now?
pretty positive. I'm a fan of all the content that they've created. It's a cool map. Red Nemesis is a really fun killer to play. I enjoy playing him, and some survivors with some great perks. So overall, I'm pretty positive about it. How about yourself?
I'm pretty much the same. I have actually played quite a bit of Killer, as I did a Killer challenge recently, but I was playing a lot of Nemesis, and overall I think quite balanced. The stuff that we talked about, Nalopa and I, in the podcast previously, zombies have been an effect on the game, but also not a huge effect. The survivor perks have actually been quite cool and fun to use and go up against. New challenges that come about with the things like the blast mine and the flashbang, having to react quickly to those kind of things. Overall, I think Nemesis as a killer is quite balanced. Actually, slowly as it has gone on, leaning towards the actual weaker side, actually a weaker side of things when you're going up against very, very solid survivors. But we've got plenty of time to figure him out and get really, really good with him, or hopefully the devs will help out if he is at that lower kind of tier like Trickster was when Trickster came out.
Yeah, definitely. I think Nemesis he's a fairly easy killer to pick up, in my opinion. I've played a few games with him, only a handful, not a crazy amount, but from the games I've played, he's fun to play. His power is pretty cool. You get value out of it. Unlike Trickster, you get rewarded for it. Zombies, they're very unique. I think they're a cool thing. Survivors obviously can go random pretty easy, but they're just there.
I've definitely found the indoor maps are more difficult to deal with the zombies, rather than the outdoor maps.
100%. I think he's fun to verse as well. Like, you can have some really fun chases with him. Overall, pretty positive about him.
That's the really important thing with the new killer. Being fun to play and fun to verse is the hardest thing for the game developers to implement into the game. A lot of the time, you're going to find if a killer's really, really fun to play, most of the time the survivors are going to not have fun against the killer, because if the killer's fun to play, usually it means that they're strong. And if they're strong, then they're going to be beating survivors quite regularly, and most survivors probably won't have that much fun if that's happening. But I actually think he's quite fun to go against. As time has gone on, as we said, he has gotten a little on the less fun side as people learn the best way to play Nemesis. Basically baiting out pallets and just running through pallets, waiting for a survivor to basically either greed the pallet and then you get a free hit, or they throw the pallet down and you can just hit them with your tentacles. So it's getting a little bit to that point where sometimes you feel like when Pyramid Head first came out, you felt like you had no counter, because you were running a loot and he would just hit you through a wall, and you were like, well, what am I meant to do there? But as time went on, we kind of as a community and as players, we've figured out the ways to combat the M2 power of Pyramid Head. Do you kind of agree there?
Yeah, like his power, he does have some counter to it. Given that it's going to take you three tentacle strikes to down him, like on that first strike, you get a little sprint burst where you can use to like get quite a bit of distance on Nemesis. So, and as soon as you use the vaccine, he's got to hit you again if he wants to down you with his tentacle strike. So definitely some counterplay to him, 100%.
The tentacle strike was something that was interesting to me because I was definitely taking advantage of that, forcing, similar as a Billy when you force them to M1 you instead of using the chainsaw, forcing the Nemesis to M1 you, injure you, and then forcing them into another point where they had to whip you with the tentacle, and then you getting that speed boost to actually go away to a stronger area.
Yeah, like I've found most Nemesises, they're just mouse oneing. Like mouse 2 when they like vault a window or something, or you're not going to be able to mouse 1. But yeah, I think mouse, like lots of Nemesises are running like save the best for last, getting those stacks, getting that recovery, and using the tentacle strike like when you can't get the mouse 1. And you can also use that on zombies as well to tier up. So as soon as you hit tier 2, you can break pallets. Then tier 3, you get that extra little distance, which it's pretty major. It's like an extra meter, I think.
It is, yeah. It goes from range. 5 to 6 meters.
Yeah. It's definitely noticeable, like that extra meter for the range.
I do love that he gets more powerful over time. I think we've written that down here. Going from being a basic tier 1 and then being able to break pallets, and then on your tier 3, getting that extra meter of tentacle strike, at a window or a pallet or just in the open can really, really help. You can kind of drag it along and hit survivors out in the open.
Yeah,
it is quite easy to dodge in the open, but
I've noticed with the power that like you can mouse 2 and then you can drag your mouse to left or right a little bit and kind of get like a little swing action.
Yeah.
So if you miss him initially, you move the mouse left or right and it can kind of like slide and hit the survivor. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I have noticed that playing Nemesis.
Yeah, it definitely has like a weird sideways hitbox that can hit people.
Like you can use that to your advantage as killer if survivors like run into it.
Yeah, exactly right. And as you mentioned, the zombies. When Nelope and I talked about the zombies and what they were like, a lot of the maps we went against the zombies, were indoor maps. So we were forming an opinion on a very like small sample size of games. I have played many, many games now, both as killer and survivor, against Nemesis and as Nemesis, and the zombies are proving far, far less of a pain than initially thought. They do provide a bit of slowdown on the gen sometimes. They push you off a generator and then that can actually stop you repairing it, and then the killer can find you. Same with a bit of hook pressure, which the hook pressure thing is a bit less liked by the community. The gen thing you can kind of deal with, but free hooks against a hook is not the best thing in the game.
Yeah, because I found a few times when I was hooked and there was a zombie like right in front of me, and there was a player trying to get the save, and they couldn't really get the save because the zombie was right in front of me. So there wasn't much they could do there. And Nemesis was also coming back for the hook as well. So we're kind of like,
especially if it's endgame as well.
Yeah,
and everyone's used if you've used all your vaccines, you actually don't have a way to get out of the contamination, and you're forced to go to a save because there's a timer on that save, and there's a zombie right there. You're simply just going to go down, or you just leave that person to die on hook. But you can't even do like a trade because the zombie will hit you before you even finish the saving animation. So,
and you both die in the end.
Exactly. So I thought potentially they could introduce just a zone. It would be hard to do because if there was an invisible wall, like a zone around the hook, it would have to be like a collision thing where the zombie collides into it and like bounces off essentially and then keeps walking. Otherwise, the zombies would just keep walking into like this invisible wall around the hook. and get stuck. As it is, the zombies get quite stuck. Have you run into lots of zombies that are just walking to walls?
I've seen a few, especially playing a killer. Like you see a zombie like in the corner of the map, just walking in like a straight line, just like not even moving. Like the animation's walking, but they're not even moving. So you just punch him with Nemesis. You just punch him, and then he respawns the zombie. So
that's actually a good tactic. A lot of people I noticed that weren't really doing that when Nemesis first came out. Something I discovered to do quite early on was to, if my zombie was in an area where I knew no one was, you can tentacle strike it to tear up a little bit more, or you can just punch it and it respawns somewhere else. So
things once you kill the zombie, I'm pretty sure it respawns in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think that's about that.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. So if there's a zombie like in the corner of the map or an area with like no gens, you can just kill the zombie with your tentacle strike or punch the zombie, and then it'll respawn hopefully in an area where it'll be useful, like near gens or survivors or something like that.
Yeah, and looking out for those the attack animation that the zombie has when they outstretch their arms.
Yeah, that's pretty handy.
Noticing that that's actually a subtle bit of info there to show you that they're near somebody, which is another thing that a lot of people were ignoring, I think. I mean, myself included when it first came out. But definitely something to look for if you're going to be playing Nemesis quite often, making sure that you're looking for the zombies walking with their arms out and, ready to attack someone, or paying attention to where they are.
Yeah.
Did you end up getting Adept with... I know I try and go for Adepts when the new killer comes out pretty much straight away.
I think it released about 1 a.m. or something in the morning, and then I think I got installed about 2 a.m. in the morning, and then I was like, why not? Let's just go for the Adepts, and I got in my first game, actually.
Oh, wow.
The Adept the first game, so I was really happy to get it done. It's one of those things.
I think it took me like 3 games, so...
Like, I love going for achievements like that, and to get in the first game I was really happy with it.
He has been such a breath of fresh air into the game. Very, very unique gameplay with the zombies and the the tearing up of the tentacle and the reach actually getting longer and being able to break pallets. Similar to, we have it noted here that a combination of Pyramid Head and Demogorgon somewhat using that tentacle to break the pallets is quite strong.
And plus, like a Myers aspect, how you can tier up. You got 3 different tiers. I like that. It's like a combination of like 3 different killers put into one. It's really nice.
Yep, exactly right. There was a couple of things that we had touched on. We're pretty much just talking about Nemesis, and then we can move on to the survivors as well. Basically, what we might be able to, well, not ourselves, but what the devs might be able to actually change in terms of the things like you said, the weaknesses. Taking 3 hits with a tentacle strike, that extra sprint burst, there's been, talk amongst the community of taking away that initial sprint burst upon contamination, because you don't get a sprint burst when plague contaminates you and starts making you sick, or when you become sick with plague, you don't get a sprint burst, do you? When you change from sick to broken, I don't think you get a sprint burst.
No sprint burst. No sprint burst there.
So the distance is just free. It's just free distance, and if you actually find a survivor at the start of the game and then they take you to a loop and then you only just get an infection in and they run away and then you switch to another survivor, they just go and use the vaccine and you've essentially, that entire chase was for nothing.
Yeah, it'd be like plague using like vomiting on somebody, and then as soon as you vomit on them, they get a sprint burst. It's pretty much like how Nemesis is working right now. And plus, if survivors use a vaccine, like if you use the fountains against plague gets her power pretty much. She gets the corrupt purge. But if survivors use vaccine, the killer doesn't get anything for it. And obviously there's a limited amount of vaccines, but the killer doesn't get anything for that.
Yeah, 4 vaccines. So the 4 vaccines, they can go quite quickly, or sometimes I've seen survivors basically play the whole game contaminated and just do the gens quite optimally, which is something that, again, most killers suffer from, but Nemesis also suffers from. If you have an optimal team, they're going to do all of the generators before you can get enough pressure to start snowballing the game in your favor.
Yeah, so what I like to see with Nemesis, like for the devs to change, is on that first tentacle strike, that survivors don't get a sprint burst. I think that'd be super handy, because Because most players right now, they're just using mouse one, get, say, the best flash stacks, roll out the game like that. But if you take away that sprint burst, it'll encourage killers to want to use your tentacle strike and tier up, get to tier 2, get to tier 3, break pallets, get extended range. I think that'd be healthier for Nemesis.
I've definitely been in many games where there's one gen left and you get that extremely loud notification that Nemesis has hit tier 3, and you're kind of tilting your head thinking, it's taken 4 gens to get your power, and your power isn't even like the tier 3, you know, it's 1 meter of extra reach, but it's not like when you lose 4 gens in your Myers and then you get tier 3 and you have infinite tier 3 and you can just walk around and one-shot everyone, or you can snowball your power. It's a very small difference, and like a small, I guess, gain, but you've already lost 4 gens at that point. So definitely encouraging survivors to use their tentacle more would be great. But yeah, for the most part, I think really healthy introduction to the game. Killers and survivors like playing as him and against him alike. He is starting to suffer from something that I like to call the Deathslinger effect. So when Deathslinger first came out, I think I mentioned this before on the podcast, but when Deathslinger came into the game, people were like, first person, shooter vibes. This is great, being able to use a weapon and shoot people from a distance and reel them in. And survivors were like, yeah, it's cool, you get to dodge the spear and everything. And then the longer it went on, the more the Deathslingers started to just use their power to zone survivors, similar to Huntress, not actually even shoot the survivors, just hold M2, aiming down the gun, push the survivor into a weak area, and then shoot them, or just M1 them and get a free hit on them. And then people started, the love for Deathslinger went downhill very quickly.
Yeah, because I still enjoy Deathslinger, but there's not too many who like versing him now compared to when it was at launch. Because at launch, everyone likes new killers. They're fun to play, fun to verse. But as time goes on, people learn how to play killers like really well. Like Deathslinger, for example, you zone survivors, and there's not a whole lot of counterplay to that. And then people just not a huge fan of versing them. Hopefully this doesn't happen to Nemesis. I don't think it will, because I think Nemesis is pretty fun to verse, personally. I've versed him a few times. Like fun chases, fun to verse. Yeah, pretty happy.
Guess speaking of fun against the killer, have you were playing mostly Survivor in your last couple of streams? Did you get a chance to muck around with any of the newer perks from the new Survivors?
I think I used
Leon and Jill.
I think I used a flashbang once with the Adept, and
yep.
I didn't really know how to use it. I crafted it. In the locker. I got it, and then I tried to use it, and I just missed the killer completely. So
it does take some timing. It's not exactly the same as
like a firecracker or something.
A flashlight. You do, and because most of the time when you drop a flashbang, you're not really looking at the killer. You're probably running away from the killer and pre-dropping it. So it is very interesting. I think I've got one successful flashbang. The main perk for me, I've seen a lot of people using, and I haven't really used much myself, is Blast Mine, the one that blinds the killer.
Yes, I have noticed that. Especially as killer, I kick a gen, I would get bloody blinded. I'm like, what is this? It happened a few times.
It's so bright as well, and it feels like it goes on forever. The Blast Mine is one of those cheeky ones. I've seen a couple of cheeky plays where a gen is, pretty much 99 done, and the killer kicks it with Blast Mine, and then the survivor jumps on the gen, potentially out of view of the killer if it's like a 3-person gen or something, and the killer goes to kick the gen and is thinking, why can't I kick this gen? And then bang, the gen pops right in front of their face, and the survivor's just cheekily popped back on there. So there's definitely some interesting plays. I've seen some fun flashbang head-on plays where, head on the killer, drop a flash, wait till they're pretty much recovered from the head-on, drop your flashbang, and then run away, blind them. And then, one of your other friends is in a locker, bang, head-on's the killer. So there's definitely some bullying going on with those with those perks. I've also started to see a bit of usage of Um, is it called Resurgence? I don't know if it's called Resurgence.
Resurgence?
I don't think it's called that.
Is that when you get unhooked, you got 50% heal?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
I don't mind that perk. It's honestly pretty decent. So when you get unhooked, or if you unhook yourself, you gain 50% to your healing. So it's really handy. I've used it a couple of times, and so then the survivor can heal you in 8 seconds, pretty much.
Yeah, I've seen that being used more and more now. And I've noticed that when I was playing killer, I was seeing people get off the hook and just be healed, especially if you have like Will Make It or something like that. They were just healed in 4 seconds, and you were like, "What? How?" Especially with a med kit like that, it was almost instant. And I was trying to think like, how are these survivors healing so fast? But end game, you see that there's 3 of them running that perk, and it starts to make sense. But I haven't seen the what's the Leon perk, the Rookie Spirit, the one where it highlights the aura of regressing generators. I have not seen many people running that.
Yeah, that one's not too useful, I don't think.
Not be running that.
What other perks do they have? They got Bite the Bullet is one of Leon's perks.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of usage of that when someone runs up to me and starts healing me, and all of a sudden I stop making noise. It can actually be quite helpful.
So when healing, you make no noise, no grunts of pain, and if you miss skill checks, you do not trigger loud noise notification. Pretty decent.
Super helpful.
So you could start healing, and the only way the killer would notice if they're running nurses calling, or if they see you. If they don't see you, you make no noise. It's pretty handy.
I've had a killer run past us when doing the healing, because obviously making no noise, and the person missed a skill check right as the killer ran past, and no notification, so they just waltzed on by without even seeing us.
Last one is Counterforce. Have you used that one yet? For
myself, haven't. I probably should, because every survivor and their dog are out there using Counterforce. It's super strong. It's one of the strongest perks in the game. Not only the new perks, but just in general.
Why do you think it's one of the better perks?
It just, totems don't exist with that perk on, especially if you are running multiple people are running that. For every totem that you cleanse, it shows you the furthest totem away.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I didn't read that.
Yeah, so that's the huge part of it. So start of the game, you can usually find a pretty easy totem. Sometimes they're right in front of you. There's the very common totem spawns where you'll find you'll find it in a TNL, or you find it in shack next to the shack pallet or something like that. You cleanse that one, and then as soon as you cleanse that, it shows you one that's further away. Every time you cleanse one, I believe you cleanse 20% faster the next time you cleanse a totem as well.
I've got to use this perk. Oh, stackable as well.
Yep.
20% stackable. That's pretty insane, to be honest.
Yeah, so after you've cleansed 4 totems, the last totem you cleanse, I believe, will be like 80% speed. So you'll cleanse it so fast.
I got to use this perk, especially for those archive challenges where you've got to cleanse like 15 totems. I've got to equip this perk. I didn't realize.
Combine that with small game, you can try and figure out. You can figure out exactly how many totems have been cleansed if your teammates are cleansing them as well.
Yeah, because that's got the counter, doesn't it? The totem counter.
Yeah, exactly right.
Small game.
The good thing about Counterforce is that there are so many totem like hex perks in the game currently, and I'm sure they'll come out. There'll be more and more coming out eventually as well. So yeah, totems have been pretty non-existent as of late. If there is a survivor running that, and you notice the survivor's running it, especially if you're playing survivor, because you'll watch one survivor cleanse a totem and they'll just beeline straight to another area on the map.
So on that of totems, we've also got the survivor totems coming out soon.
Yeah, the boon totems. I believe they're called.
Boon totems?
Boon, B-O-O-N, I believe.
So that'll be interesting when that rolls out. So that's going to be a survivor perk, I believe, is it? The boon totems?
We were actually talking, myself and my stream were talking about that the other day, about what boon totems possibly could be. Because a hex totem is a really strong perk, But the downside is that it can be cleansed, and then it's nothing. So we were trying to think, okay, what's a really strong survivor perk that you can put in the game that won't break the game if it's not cleansed? Because let's be honest, if Ruin doesn't get cleansed, it doesn't break the game. It makes doing gens harder, but it's not impossible.
No, not at all.
Devour is one of those ones where if you don't cleanse Devour, depending on how many gens are left, you're probably going to lose the game. But what can you put in there for a survivor? We were thinking, okay, so you equip a boon totem, and that totem gives you 10% faster gen progression.
10%.
Or, we're just coming up with a random number.
Yeah, because with totems, they're very strong perks. So
exactly what I mean. It has to be strong, but it also killers are already struggling now. Killers are struggling against good teams. Killers are struggling against even medium, mediocre teams. You're going to add an extra thing the killer now has to do to go.
Do the killer have to go just smash the totem?
Yep. So we were talking about this. So survivors load into a match. The very, very core of the game, the survivors need to complete 5 generators and open an exit gate and escape, or use a key and open the hatch and get out. When a killer loads in, they have to make sure that they are protecting their generators and to stop the survivors completing their generators. But they also have to juggle that with getting looped by a survivor for a long time, making sure that they're trying to, in most cases, play as fairly as possible, not going after the same person over and over again. Making sure to refill their power if it's Huntress or Trickster, something like that. Balancing where the generators are on the map as well, making sure that you, if you can or if you have to, forcing a 3-gen or something like that. Whereas the survivors are just running around repairing generators and maybe doing a totem if it inconveniences them. So you're going to add a boon totem in now where the killer has to run around and also be like, okay, well, I got to protect the gens now. I got to check on my hex totems. I got to chase some survivors. I got to down them. I got to hook them. But now I also have to go and search out and find a boon totem.
Plus, you got to break the walls, break the breakable walls, kick them down as well. There's a lot to do as killer if they're adding boon totems in.
So yeah, well, do you have any idea? Is there just a off the top of your head kind of idea that you can think of potentially that you could throw on a boon totem that's not too strong, but it has to be strong?
I don't know, maybe 20% faster heals or something like that.
Yeah, but I'm not too sure. The only thing is, right, so a killer totem, a killer hex totem will always affect the game. Well, sorry, it won't always affect the game, but a hex totem like Ruin will always affect the game because survivors have to do generators to escape. Whereas if you have 20% extra healing and you go against a killer that's not that great and they don't hit anyone for the entire game, then you've essentially wasted an entire perk.
True.
You could say the same for Noed if the survivors cleanse all the totems and then they complete all the gens and then you have the hex no one escapes death and it doesn't go off at the end, then you've basically wasted a perk. And you can't balance around, teams being bad or killers being bad and that kind of thing. It's something, we were talking about on stream, just trying to figure out what exactly a boon totem would involve.
Yeah, because it'd have to be a brand new perk pretty much. So it wouldn't be anything similar to other perks. I don't know what they would use, what they could come up with. I'm not too sure.
We had some people maybe saying potentially they do. You were saying, it has to be a brand new perk, that they do actually scrap a perk, delete a perk and make it a hex.
They could rework perks
boon or something like that.
Yeah, they could do that. Rework perks into boon totems. That'd be interesting.
You could take the one that you said, will make it, healing speed. We could take will make it and then it becomes boon will make it. I don't know what they're going to be called, but it could become a boon totem and you get 200% extra healing speed as long as that totem's up. But as soon as it's gone, then, you don't have that effect anymore. So, I mean, that's the only... it can't be to do with gens. I just feel like it cannot... the way that killers struggle now, it cannot be... And myself included, I was playing... I did a killer challenge recently, as I said before, and There was games where I struggled against teams that were just really, really efficient. So I don't think that introducing a boon totem that affects gens, like I was saying, is very good. Would be very good for the game.
Unless they make like prove thyself into a boon totem, that could be something they could do potentially.
It's so interesting though, because it's an actual character. I guess the hexes are from Hag and things like that. So they're actually existing. The hex totems do come from killers in the game. So yeah, you could rework the perks, but I don't think they will rework them. I think they will
just make brand new ones.
Make new ones, but it will be very, very interesting. I don't know when they'll be coming. I think they said maybe by the end of 2021 they were talking about having boon totems in the game.
So they're now saying in the 5th year anniversary live stream. So I'd say within like the next year we should have it, potentially by the end of this year.
Well, yeah, I can say for sure we'll definitely have it at some point in the next year. But yeah, I was hoping. I think they said maybe second or third quarter, so potentially by the end of this year. If not, it'll be early-ish next year, which will be really exciting. That'll be a whole nother...
Something like brand new to the game that we haven't really seen a survivor like hex perk pretty much.
We pretty much just have to hope that the game is staying as healthy as it is at this point. Leading on to that, there is, just with the Resident Evil chapter coming out, I believe when... you and I, Quixie, when we heard about the Resident Evil release, we talked about it a little bit on the podcast as well, and I believe I was saying that I thought that the player base was going to potentially double, if not, close to triple in size. And we did actually get some numbers recently that during the 5th anniversary event and the Resident Evil chapter release, that DBD actually released reached its peak number of players ever in 5 years.
That's insane. It just exploded.
108,000 active players at one time. I think it was concurrent. They were all playing at the same time.
Was that for Steam?
That was, I believe those stats were for Steam. I don't think they had console and everything included in that. And I've been told that you can account about 30% of the player base for console. So you can imagine that's upwards of, it's upwards of 100,000 players for a game that's 5 years old, which is insane.
That is huge. Like, there's a very big console player base, which you don't know. We don't have the numbers for that. So I'd imagine the numbers for console would be even bigger than that.
So if the game can keep this momentum and keep introducing new players and really trying to teach in the game, they've introduced a new tutorial system lately. So there's bot games and there's things to keep people coming back and staying in the game. So if that happens, then we're going to see these boon totems come in, and we're going to see more and more new cool mechanics come in to keep the game fresh, which at the end of the day, people have been playing this game for 5 years. It's changed. I watched a video on the 2016 Dead by Daylight.
It's a lot different, isn't it?
Changed exponentially from then till now. Anytime a survivor or killer complains about the game, I just want to link them a video of 2016 DBD and say, this is what it used to be like.
Just have a look at the loops. There's no window blocks, no nothing.
Yeah, exactly. But you can't compare because they weren't playing the game back then. They're playing it now. They want the game to be, a certain way now because they're playing the game now, which is completely understandable. But I think they're doing the right things. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about with the Resident Evil chapter? I guess we could talk about the map, probably.
Yeah, the
is
map.
one of the things
Raccoon City.
we should touch on first.
Very cool map. If you're a Resident Evil fan, I'm sure you know your way around. I'm still a bit clueless on the new map because I never played the games. But aesthetically, it looks great. Functionality for DVD, probably not there, given that it's made for a completely different game and they've brought it straight in. So I'd like to see them... Obviously, it's already created, so... I wouldn't mind seeing them split it up in half because it's a pretty big map, given that there's 2 levels and it's very hard to navigate around. I saw some people. 3 levels, yeah, 3 levels. I saw some ideas for making splitting it in half, having an east and west wing, which I think that'd be interesting if they do something like that with the new map, which they could because the map's already made. They could have 2 different versions, like an east and west wing, and just move the gens around and maybe add a little bit outside. I'm not too sure. How about yourself?
I like that idea when you brought it up before the pod recording, talking about splitting it up into similar things. And we don't have a map that's currently got like a split up map of the same map, but we do have different variations. You know, your Badham and Badham variations are probably the ones that you would kind of base it off, because the corn, you know, the cornfields one, they're actually different map. Like they have different layouts and
Like different structures
buildings
and, stuff.
and things. Yeah. Whereas the Badham one is just similar. Like they have all the same buildings, but all in different areas.
Just like a different layout of all the same stuff.
Yeah. So the East Wing, West Wing thing, I kind of like that idea. It gives an extra map. It's probably not likely because this is a licensed chapter.
Yeah, that is true.
And they've got deals that they would have had with, I think is it Capcom? I always forget the people that own the license to Resident Evil. So if they say, "Hey, we're going to keep your map in the game, but we're going to split in half," I don't know how well that conversation goes down.
With licensed stuff, they usually get the license for one thing and they can't change it.
Exactly, and they tell you, well, we don't know this, but our thoughts are that they would tell them to say, this needs to be like this, and it has to remain like this. I'm imagining that the once the license is there and the monies are exchanged, they probably don't care that much about what happens in the game as long as it's in the game. So maybe it could happen, but at the very least, they're fixing some issues with the map. There was some crashes. The map actually got disabled within the first hour of the chapter coming out.
Yeah, I think I played like 2 games and then it got deleted, got disabled. So I was lucky enough to actually get a couple games in before it got disabled.
Yeah, I got one. I got one game in, I remember, and it actually only just recently, I think it was in the last week or maybe last 2 weeks, it only just got re-enabled. So it was gone for the first couple of weeks of the chapter release, which is not a good look.
It's not ideal. It's not ideal.
But overall, the map is beautiful, as you said. It's aesthetically pleasing. There's some really cool. If you jumped into that map in a custom game and you were a Resident Evil fan, and then you just went in exploring, you would have the time of your life. There's lots of little Easter eggs and really cool little things hidden around the map that would make a Resident Evil fan's heart sing. But overall, as you said, gameplay-wise, it's really, really tough. It's about the same size as the Red Forest map you were saying, which
takes the same amount of time to walk across as the Red Forest. It's a pretty big map. Like actual size is not as big, but because there's so many like different doorways and stuff to actually navigate through the map, it takes the same amount of time.
There's so many dead ends. There's so many. There's so many areas that you run into and you think you're going to be able to get away, and then you run into a dead end, or you run into the unsafest pallet in the game. Or sorry, the most unsafe pallet in the game, where the killer can literally take one step either side and hit you.
Yeah. There's a couple of those in that map.
I did actually find out I heard that there was 3 different potential door spawns for the exit gates, and I actually confirmed that the other day because I was playing and the door spawned in a different space that I'd never seen it spawn before.
That's
so
cool.
I thought that was quite interesting to have 3 potential different, but only because it's a map like that is very deliberate in the way they have certain set areas for the exit gates, whereas when you play on on like a Macmillan kind of map, the whole outside of the map just looks exactly the same with the brick walls that it has around it, so you can just kind of slot an exit gate pretty much anywhere on that.
Yeah, so now we've got the 5th year anniversary event, which has been going on for about 2 weeks, I believe, and it has been extended to July 22nd. So exciting times. There's cakes, there's crowns, there's confetti, there's new flashlights, new toolboxes, new cosmetics, a few codes as well for I think it's David cosmetic and a Wraith cosmetic. So you'd be pretty happy with the Wraith cosmetic, I'd imagine.
It looks so nice. I'm biased, but I really, really like it. I think I'm going to be running it pretty consistently now. It looks really, really nice altogether, but it actually, I'm a bit of a cosmetic person where I like to put my, make really cool mix and matches of cosmetics. So I'm looking forward to finding some cool combos with the new 5th anniversary stuff. Even with David, I've managed to find some pretty cool combos. But yeah, they've done really, really well. The only thing I don't like is David's hair.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan with that one.
It's not that great. But the 5th anniversary has been really, really fun. It went from the announcement of, the next roadmap and everything that we talked about previously on the podcast. I believe we talked about all the hype from that 5th anniversary event and everything. And then we finally, at the start of July, got the anniversary event with the cakes, as you mentioned. The big cake offerings for the blood point gains, which is everyone's been excited about. And then the crowns. So the crowns are a repeat of the 4th year anniversary. So Survivor, you need to load into the match, find the crown and escape with it. And then Killer, you just need to collect the crown and finish the trial. Have you got all your crowns?
Yes, I was on the crown hunt. A lot of fun. I think it took me about 3 days, I think. So,
Killer and Survivor, all done?
All done, mate. All done. Yourself?
You're a better man than I. I have I just went for Survivor ones and called it a day.
It's honestly, it's a fun challenge to go for. It's pretty exciting. Like, I know it's just a crown, but like, you want to collect them all. It just brings back like childhood stuff.
I was doing
collecting everything.
A crown's escape streak kind of on stream.
Yeah.
Trying to get as many crowns as possible without dying. I think I managed to get like 10 in a row or something like that before.
That's pretty good.
Losing a Survivor, so
damn,
that was a lot of fun.
That's 10 escapes in a row.
There's obviously killers that are being a little bit more generous because they're wanting to try and let people get their crowns and vice versa. Picking up their crowns and taking away those free cosmetics. The other main thing as well, the blood point gains. So I've actually managed to almost. I have all my survivors at some P3, Prestige 3, level 50, and I think I have 10 of them now with all perks. And I think at the start of this event, I had 3 or 4.
Damn, that's a good effort. Making the most of it.
Yeah, you have to. And for anyone that hears this before the event's over, stop hoarding cakes. Just use the cakes.
Use the cakes.
They're there to be used. Please stop hoarding them.
Like, you might as well use them because they will stack. Everyone's using them right now. If you use 5, it's about 500% plus the extra 5 for each one.
Just use them. Just use them until the event is over, and then you can hoard all the ones that you've got at the end of the event. You're gonna get them. You're gonna be getting cakes regardless every time you put points into blood webs. So use those cakes.
You get at least like 2 or 3 cakes per blood web, so you might as well just use them because you're gonna be earning more blood points just from playing, and then you can use that to get more cakes.
My question for you about the anniversary event and the cakes in particular, do you prefer or have you been around in the game when they have a blood hunt versus the cakes? So a blood hunt is when at a base level the points, your blood points are 1.5 times or 2 times blood
2x,
points.
Yep.
And you don't have to have any cakes or anything like that.
I have played through that event. Hasn't been one for a while, actually. I think the last one was a blood rush. I think it was like the end
blood
of
hunt, blood rush. Yeah,
end
exactly
of last year. Does lead to some interesting games. Plenty of people want to farm during those events to make the most of the blood points.
Do you have a preference? Because I think I prefer the blood rush events without the cakes, because only for things like this, when survivors at the end of the game, obviously 4 survivors, there's going to be more cakes lost. If the killer doesn't bring one, it's not the end of the world. If 4 survivors bring one, at least that's 4. I'm finding that I would prefer to have I might not get as many points because it might only be 2 times, but having that consistently every game rather than I've had games where I've been the only person to bring a cake.
Yeah, me too. Like, obviously, it's more consistent if it's a blood rush. You're guaranteed like 2x blood points, which is pretty nice. Obviously, cakes, you have potential to get like 5x blood points.
Yep, exactly.
If everybody brings one. Plus, you also get the offering as well, but you have to actually search and claim them and use the offering. So it's a bit more work to get them, but I like both, to be honest. I don't mind as long as there's some sort of event on.
Yeah, exactly right. The other thing was there was a little bit of pushback at the start of the 5th anniversary event because Behaviour themselves actually stated that they would be putting more effort into big events like this, more meaningful events in terms of, anniversary events and the big events that they have. They were saying that they were going to be putting more effort in, and this 5th anniversary event is just a reskin of last year's.
Is it actually? Okay.
It's the crowns are a little bit different. I don't know if you noticed, but in your inventory, all of your any anniversary items you had last year automatically just turned into. They were called 4th anniversary items, but now they're just called anniversary items.
Do they change? Oh, really? I didn't notice that.
So if you had any toolboxes or flashlights, I believe they said 4th year anniversary, and then they've now all been changed to just anniversary, except for obviously the cakes. So all the Halloween stuff and everything stayed the same if you've got any stuff from back then. But yeah, there was some pushback from the community just basically saying, well, you said you were going to put a lot of effort into the event. Back in the day, if people don't remember, you used to get little tokens from each game, and you could spend those tokens to unlock in-game cosmetics, similar to the ones that we got this time round for David and Wraith. But we just had to collect crowns as a community to unlock those. So it wasn't completely cosmetic dry, but yeah, people were definitely hoping that they were going to be. I don't know what more effort they can put in, like what more they can kind of do with it. But I noticed that there was a bit of pushback with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind like a currency, because remember the Blighted event, the Halloween one.
Yep.
Where like you get that currency and you can redeem that and get skins, cosmetics.
Yep, exactly.
I wish they did something like that for this event. Maybe in the future one. So you earn currency just for playing, I guess. And the more games you get, the more currency you get, and you can redeem that to get some skins. I think that'd be an extra step they could do for the future events.
Yeah, and Rocket League do that. So when they bring out like a Christmas event for Rocket League, they give you a currency that you get a small bit of currency at the end of every game, and they have a little currency store where you can purchase some cool items. And then if you've purchased all the items and the event's still on and you're still getting that currency, there's actually a thing there where you can spend a certain amount of currency and unlock. You get like a certain amount of XP or something, and then that XP can unlock you crates and things like that. So you could even do that in DBD when you've unlocked all the cosmetics. A certain amount of currency gives you 50,000 blood points or 100,000 blood points. So it rewards people that put a decent amount of hours into the game, but you can also still get the cosmetics just by playing the game.
Yeah, plus it keeps them going. Keeps them going. If they keep getting rewarded, they'll keep playing the game.
Yeah, exactly right. That's carrot on a stick. just keep coming back. I guess the last thing, because the 5th anniversary event, there's not too much to talk about. It's pretty straightforward. The other thing that we had noticed, and I guess the community had also noticed, is the difference in play when an event is on to when an event is not on. So I noticed this, but a lot of my viewers and a lot of the community that I've talked to and interacted with noticed that there's more camping hooks than ever than they've seen in a long time. There is more complaints of farming killers. I don't like loading into a match where the killer just wants to instantly farm, because I just want to play a regular game and get points that way. What are your thoughts? Do you think did you see like an active change in gameplay or anything?
Yeah, there's definitely a few games where killers, they want to farm, but in the end, farming is no fun for anyone. It's just boring gameplay.
Yep.
Especially when you're streaming, like people want to watch you play. I don't get why people want to farm. Obviously, you're gonna get blood points either way. Like if you play the game normally, you probably get more blood points than farming. But for most of the games, they've been pretty standard, to be honest. Obviously, I haven't been
Okay.
playing a whole lot in comparison to like yourself, but
Yeah.
for the most part,
Definitely,
they've been okay.
definitely was seeing a bit more, like, I guess, I hate even saying the word usually, but like, going for the same survivor on off hook just to kill them out of the game and make sure they get no points or.
I have been noticing that with a few of my chat who play with me.
Yeah.
Just
And
getting tunneled all the time. It's
or
very
DCing
frustrating for him.
the killer DCing instantly out of the game to try and make you lose your cakes and things like that. A lot of killers. This is another thing that isn't like a huge problem gameplay wise, but it's seen an increase of Franklin's demise as well. That the perk that makes you drop your items. So a lot of killers going into the match with the intention of making survivors potentially drop their anniversary items and lose them.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's just, you don't see that much Franklin's during a non-event time, but it definitely has increased through the event time. That could be because there's been a change to the perk where, it doesn't, the item doesn't disappear, it actually just drains the item. Or I think it's more of the they want people to drop, because there are people out there in the world that just want to watch the world burn, and they want to punish people for trying to enjoy a fun event. The other thing we can touch on, the last thing for the 5th anniversary event, if you want to touch on the killer or the survivor, whichever one you want to do, there's some stats that DVD released for us to have a look at for this event.
Yes. I'll go through the killer ones first.
Yeah,
so,
sure thing.
Got a few stats that we can discuss. We got the most played killer in the game is Wraith. So you'd be pretty happy with that one, I'd imagine.
Surprising,
Wraithy?
but I'm happy with it. Big buffs to Wraith in the past month or two, so it's not as surprising, but still interesting to see him up there. He is a blood point machine, though, and he's pretty easy to play. So
obviously, he's one of the original 3, so everyone starts with him.
Yeah.
So that's probably why he's up there, especially with newer players. They see this bloke, Wraith. Let's go play him. He's a fun killer, definitely with the buffs. He's pretty enjoyable to play, pretty decent. And in second spot is Huntress, which is probably about right, because Huntress is pretty common. People love throwing hatchets. Huntress is a really fun killer to play. And in third spot, it's pretty interesting, the third spot. We've got Doctor. Doctor's the 3rd most played killer in the game.
I do find it interesting that it's a non like base character from the game, from the base game, from when the characters are like free characters that are released.
I believe Doctor is free on PlayStation.
There
So
you go.
that could be a reason why he's played quite a bit.
Also, there was the free 9,000 iridescent shards during the start of this event, so that was encouraging people to go out and try a new killer, try a new survivor, try and mix it up a little bit. So potentially, maybe they saw Doctor as a bit of a blood point machine like Wraith, or people were just holding out hoping to try some Doctor, or he's just quite common on other servers and we don't see much of him in our region.
Definitely. And we've got the 3 most popular killer perks, which is no surprise. The first one is barbecue and chili. It's one
If
of
anyone guessed that wrong, I suggest that you turn this podcast off right now. No, please don't stay.
So that's one of Bubba's perks. You get 100% extra blood points if you hook every single survivor. Very nice perk. You get to see, once you hook somebody, you see people's auras with it beyond 40 meters, which is pretty damn good perk. It's pretty common. I use it myself just to get loads of blood points, especially when the event's on. Getting the extra blood points is always handy. Second spot, Hex Ruin. No surprise there either. Everybody loves gen regression. Every game. You almost see it. And in third spot is Hex No One Escapes Death. Also, I haven't really noticed one a whole lot. Maybe in the lower ranks, you see Noah a bit more.
I think with Counterforce, maybe we haven't seen the effects of Hex No One Escapes Death.
Plus, it is one of those perks that is free. With the other 2, you have to actually get the teachable perk. So maybe in the lower ranks, Noah's one of the better perks to use because you don't really need to level up anybody. So
yep, agreed. Yeah,
could be
for sure.
Did you want to go over the survivor stats?
Now, the survivor ones are quite funny because the two of the survivors here are two of the survivors that cop the most flack in the game. The number one most played survivor is Claudette. The old rank 20 bush Claudette, Blendette, whatever you want
The
to
blendies.
call this fine lady. But yeah, Claudette obviously being a base survivor as well that comes with the game. Quite decent perks in terms of self-care, botany knowledge, empathy. Is it empathy? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, when you
Being able
prestige, you get
to-
a sick outfit
Yeah,
Your
that lets you
prestige
hide
3.
very well.
that you blend in the environment.
The second most played survivor being a Meg head or Meg. Very interesting again. Another survivor that cops a lot of flack. Sprint burst, obviously quite a good perk for Meg. Quick and quiet. Adrenaline as well.
Very solid
So-
perks on Meg.
She's got very good perks. Also, again, another base character. And then Feng is actually the third most played survivor, which I would say surprised me, but it doesn't because the amount of bunny Fengs that I see out there,
Yes.
it doesn't surprise me. We also have the 9,000 again, the 9,000 iridescent shards that were given out, encouraging people to try new killers and survivors. So potentially, Feng is a very, I guess the nicest way, noob friendly. She has very noob friendly perks. So she has Technician, which will take away the loud explosions for skill checks being missed. She has Lithe, which will, make you run basically a sprint burst whenever you vault a pallet or jump through a window. So they're pretty good perks for when you're learning the game. They can get you out of dodge pretty quick, but the Technician one's pretty good also to stop those skill checks. Now, my personal favorite, the thing that makes me even happier than Wraith being the most played killer, the most popular survivor perks. Number one is self-care.
That perk cops a bit of flack, doesn't it?
And being a self-care main, I absolutely love that this perk is on. Actually, all three of the perks that I run in my regular build are 1, 2, and 3. So I find that quite interesting. I'm very meta, obviously. But yeah, self-care is the high. Obviously, with Claudette being the most played survivor, self-care being, I think, her first teachable that you unlock. Pretty self-explanatory. The second perk that's most been used is Borrowed Time. Again, this Borrowed Time is just a real no-brainer to use with the amount of killers that have been playing less than ideally for the event. Running Borrowed Time is never a bad thing. Being able to, save someone basically for free off the hook. Have you seen a lot of Borrowed Time as well?
Yeah, it's very, very good perk. And also with the buffs that came out probably a while ago with the counters like Freddy and all the stealthy killers, how it's just default Borrowed Time. If you unhook somebody, they can't get hit for 12 seconds, I believe. They get a sprint burst if they do.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a free safe unhook. The amount of time that you have Borrowed Time for is more than the amount of time that you need to get a safe unhook rescue. So as long as the person doesn't jump into a locker and get grabbed or vault through a window and get grabbed or something, then you get a safe unhook no matter what. And then obviously the third perk, again, another perk that makes me very happy to see up there is Dead Hard. So good old David King and his Dead Hard. Dead Harding for distance, Dead Harding to the pallet, Dead Harding to the vault, whatever you want to call it.
Dead Harding to the killer.
Dead Harding into the killer, exhausted on the ground. That is a no-brainer as well.
The pain of getting exhausted on the ground.
Yep, that is just just Dead Hard in a nutshell.
Ever since dedicated service got introduced, Dead Hard exhaust on the ground became a thing.
Yep, exactly. You get more usage out of it by yeeting yourself a little bit on the ground when you get down than you do actually moving and using the perk to avoid the killer's hit.
Obviously,
but very interesting to hear those three. Self-care still does interest me. I mean, I know Claudette being the most played survivor, it makes sense. Borrowed Time and Dead Hard are quite common, but self-care I actually don't see a lot of self-care. As you said, Quixie, self-care itself cops a bit of flack, but also self-care users tend to cop a bit of flack as well.
Yeah. Just the way that people use it is just, they don't use it properly. Like they heal in the corner of the map, they self-care, the killer has a nurse's calling, they see them, they go down. That's pretty much the gist of it.
So in terms of those perks, it would be nice to see a different mix-up of perks, but there's always going to be barbecue and chili, for a killer. It's just a no-brainer to use for blood points, especially with the bit of info we get as well. And Ruin and Noed, I don't think that will change unless something stronger comes out. It gives the killers the best chance of getting 4 kills or winning the game, whatever you consider winning the game. So
yeah, I'd love to see a shake up in the meta. I'd love to see a shake up. That all comes to like just the core game. Like there needs to be like a starting thing where survivors just, I don't know, can't do gens for 30 seconds or whatever, just to prevent people just bringing the same gen regression perks every game. And same with survivor as well.
Something that a lot of people probably don't know or realize is that the tome actually has a big effect on
it does
the meta of the game when the tome challenges first come out. If there's a tome challenge for killer to be running Devour Hope, you'll see a lot of Devour Hope. If there's a tome challenge for running Red Herring or like Head On or something like that, then you're going to be seeing a lot of Head On and everything. So yeah, that unfortunately it has a really big impact for a very small amount of time.
And then you have survivors going for totems and stuff and like not doing gens. So it does impact, like when you're playing survivor, you're wondering what your team's doing. They're all going for the archive challenges, cleansing totems.
Exactly right. But it gives killers a better chance at, potentially beating a stronger team.
Yeah, definitely.
So it is a good shake-up. I just kind of wish it had more of an impact on the meta going, past that first week. Usually people complete their challenges quite quickly. But I guess, that is pretty much all we had to touch on with the stats and the 5th anniversary. Everything kind of covering under that. We do want to go straight into the mid-chapter update, which is coming just under 2 weeks. It's in just under 2 weeks or a week and a half. Quixie, you want to yeet us straight into that and let us know what's happening there?
Yeah, so the main thing that they're changing is Trickster. Trickster is getting some changes.
Again,
yes. It's only been out for about 3 months or 5 months, whatever it is. He's already getting changes. We've also got a Strider nerf, which is pretty huge, especially for Spirit players. And also, the other major thing is the hit detection with like getting hit through pallets and also the grabs. So there's a few things, not a huge patch, but there's some...
An impactful one.
Yes, an impactful 100%. So with Trickster, the main thing he's getting changed is the laceration is going down from 8 to 6. So the amount of knives it takes to injure a survivor is now 6 knives. So pretty huge. Obviously, most Trickster players did use the USB stick add-on. So it was 7. But now its default is going down to 6. So I didn't play the PTB. I've seen some gameplay of it, and it does seem to make a difference. That one extra knife, one less knife, does make a difference. Did you play the PTB?
No, I didn't bother with the PTB this time, but I can definitely tell we're going to see a lot more Tricksters. I'm even tempted to give Trickster another go. Well, a real go, considering I think I played like 3 games with Tricky Boy. But it'll make a big difference. Taking, from 8 to 6, though sometimes you, as a Trickster, you get stuck with one knife just waiting. They get to a really strong area, they get to shack or something like that, or they just get out of reach, and you've got that one knife left, and it's super frustrating. But to cut it down by 2 now, you're going to be it cuts down the time. Not only does you injure the person faster, it's doing that is cutting down the time for the survivor to make it somewhere safe.
Yeah, and with that buff, there's also some changes to the laceration decay. So usually once you get hit with a knife, it takes 20 seconds and then it starts to go down. Now that's getting changed to 10 seconds. So it's cut in half. So if you hit somebody with the knife in 10 seconds time, it starts to regress down. So you can't really split pressure as much as you could before, which wasn't a whole lot. So it's going to kind of force killers to kind of like have tunnel vision and focus on one player at a time. So not a whole lot of map pressure there.
I was having a bit of a conversation about this again in stream, and I had my community, a few people telling me that they think that this change is more impactful than taking the knives down from 8 to 6, and they think that the fact that you are reducing the decay by half to start to 10 seconds instead of 20, you are basically, it's not going to matter that the trickster only needs to hit 6 knives instead of 8, because if you aren't in a complete dead zone, which you would normally get downed by a trickster anyway, if you're in an area where you can make it to a pallet or, you know, a vault or somewhere where you can defend yourself, if you don't get hit for that 10 seconds, your laceration is going to start decaying anyway. So it was an interesting thought. I don't quite agree with that. I think that the knife being changed down to 6 is a big enough change that the laceration, decay starting earlier isn't going to be a huge issue. But it was just interesting to hear some thoughts from some other people, potentially saying that it was going to nullify that change.
Yeah, so they're also changing the main event. So now you get, I believe it's, 30 seconds? 30-second window. So once you hit your main event, once you throw enough knives into survivors, you reach your ultimate ability, your main event, you get 30-second window instead of 10. So before, you only had 10 seconds to use it, so you're kind of limited to like when you could use it. Now you got an extra 20 seconds, which is pretty huge. Gives you a bit more time. Gives you like a lot more time actually to like pick and choose when to use it. Plus, that also means you're gonna have the charge up's gonna be quicker. I believe. I think it's 1 second it takes to charge up. Before it took like I think it was 2 seconds. Half a second, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's hard. It's one whole. Yeah, well, it's 1 whole second that's changed, down from 1.5 seconds. So it's half a second to activate now.
Yeah, so it takes half a second now to activate. So the window, like there between, because the idea before was to like not use it, just keep using your knives. But now the charge up is less, takes less time to do. You're more encouraged to use your main event.
However, another thing that people were saying will impact and kind of nullify this is that it takes 30 knives to be able to activate your main event now. Previously, I think it was 20 or
20, yep.
Something like that. So basically, I've heard some people talking about how you're going to be using your main event less frequently, but you're going to be able to use it. You're going to be able to hold it for longer. And that was that right there. I said to them, you've hit the nail on the head there. And they're saying, no, that's a bad thing. I think quality over quantity in terms of his main event power. If you can have a really successful main event power and you can take out one person and then end up finding another person potentially, or get some knives into someone else at least, then that's huge for you, because you can hold it longer. It doesn't matter if it takes that little bit extra to activate it or get it to be ready to be activated. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, because when I played Trickster before these changes, you felt limited to when you can use your main event. Most of the time, like you're probably already down somebody. You got 10 seconds to use it. You're not going to find somebody in 10 seconds. Let's be honest. The extra 20 seconds probably allows you to hook that player and still have time to use your main event, which I think is super nice. And like you said, even though it takes 10 extra knives to activate it, you're going to be able to actually like pick and choose when to use it and actually get some value out of it. So I'm a fan of that change, to be honest.
Well, if you think about it this way, it's changed from 8 to 6 knives. So if you play perfectly and you hit 6 knives into someone, injure them, and then hit 6 knives into someone else, that's 12 knives. And then if you do that to another survivor, that's 24. And then if you injure another survivor, that's your main event active. So that's 2 survivors downed and 1 survivor injured before you can even get your main event. Seems like a lot, but you have to remember that survivors now are going to be decaying quicker or more quickly. So the knives are going to be having less effect on them after that 10 seconds. So you're going to be putting more knives into people than just those 6 knives a lot of the time. So your main event is actually, I feel like it's going to balance itself out.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But it remains to be seen. Anything can happen. It could be terrible, or it could be, you could see no one ever gets their main event because it just fades away. And
this is the PTB, so it is subject to change when the live version comes out.
Yep.
Also, some of the add-ons are getting changed, and probably won't go through them. Nothing too...
The biggest one that we can touch on is the Melodious Murder. So that's the USB add-on. That, as you said, used to reduce the number of knives to injure, but leaving it at 6 and then reducing it from 6 would be a bit too strong because it would bring it down to like 4 or 5. So
yeah, four knives. It's better than Huntress now.
Yeah. So they've reworked that add-on to give it an increased reload speed at lockers. So they've basically killed that add-on, which is a bit sad because
majority of Trixers did use that add-on.
Yeah, you can just use Iron Maiden if you want quick reloads. So
yeah,
I mean, if you don't want to use Iron Maiden, maybe you'll run it, but probably not. The iridescent photo card is actually one that will probably see a little bit more usage now that there's only 6 knives to hit. When a survivor is 2 or fewer blades away from the maximum, they become exposed. So if you get if you put 4 knives into a survivor, they're exposed with that add-on.
Could be pretty nasty, that add-on.
Yep.
If you throw 4 knives into somebody, then get an insta down.
Yep.
It's pretty.
You have 10 seconds for those knives for that exposed status to start to go away because it'll decay. So I think that's actually potentially stronger than that.
Yeah, but with that, you're still 110% movement speed, so you're only 10% faster than survivors. So that is something to be taken into consideration there.
But if you now, how many times? Well, maybe not that often, but you get trapped in a corner by a killer, or they trap you. They get you in a really, really bad spot. Just pop, 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 4 knives, swing, you're down.
That's when you're going to get some really good value out of that add-on for sure.
Yep.
But the one I'm more interested in is Death Throws compilation. So when you use your main event, when it ends, you get all your knives are replenished. So theoretically, if you use your main event enough, you don't really have to use lockers.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's true.
I think that's going to be very common with Trickster players using that add-on.
If you use Death Throws compilation and then the one that gives you 75 knives, if you are hitting your knives accurately enough, you will never need to reload.
And that's a lot of time saved. It's pretty much Huntress, just not having to reload. Kind of, it's pretty huge. Just that extra bit of time, like you don't have to reload.
My other favorite thing with his changes is the perk changes. So there is another add-on that extends the duration of main event every time you hit someone with a blade during main event. I feel like it's a little bit memey. It might not work that often because you're probably going to end up downing someone, and then usually no one's nearby because you're moving quite slowly. You're not really going to get a chance to hit someone. But if you do manage to just randomly throw a knife somewhere and hit someone, it is going to still extend that main event. So there is potential for you to literally snowball an entire team if they are really, really close together. So that might be quite funny to see. But the perks, the crowd control, so Hex No Windows, Hex Crowd Control, or Hex No Windows as we like to call it, that's being extended, I think, to 14 seconds. Now a window gets blocked every time you fast vault through it as a survivor. So not a huge thing. Not many killers are out there using that.
It's going
but
to
it'll have
it's
an
going to
impact.
20 seconds at tier 3 now. It was
20
14.
seconds.
Now
Oh,
it's
it
gone
was
to 20
14.
seconds. Yeah. So if you, I think that perk's probably most used on like Leatherface or Billy, where you get the one shot down. Pretty much if they
It's
vault the
crowd
window.
control and bamboozle. Pretty good combo.
Just completely just delete windows.
Yeah, exactly.
Try and get that one shot down. I think that could be pretty useful. Crowd control Undying on one of those 2 killers could be pretty handy.
Yep, crowd control, undying, barbecue, and bamboozle.
Say goodbye to
Easy.
windows. It's just gonna be use all the pellets you can, pretty much.
But yeah, my personal favorite one is No Way. So No Way Out. So this perk is the perk that gave the doors basically the corrupt intervention effect, where you weren't able to repair them. Oh, sorry, repair them. You weren't able to open the doors at the end of the match. Base time was 12 seconds, and then for each individual survivor, so a token like you get with barbecue, it was an extra 12 seconds at tier 3. So big potential to block the door for a long time, but most of the time the killer probably has someone on hook when the last gen gets done. Survivors are rallying to try and heal and go save that person, or one person's running to a door. A lot of time, No Way Out would trigger, and you wouldn't even see it, because by the time you actually get to the door, it's gone. Like, the effect is gone.
I reckon with No Way Out, you could run that with Remember Me.
Yep.
And that could be pretty nasty. And Noed. So as soon as the gens get done, the gates are blocked. And even when the gates are unblocked, it's still going to take you a long time to open them. Plus, the killer's going to have Noed. So I reckon those 3 perks combined could be a pretty nasty endgame build.
But the thing is now, Quixie, with the updated perk, this perk is only going to activate and turn on when a survivor interacts with an exit gate for the first time.
For the first time, okay.
If you now spend time saving a survivor, getting a totem, getting Noed or something like that, and then you go, okay, we're pretty much ready to go to the exit gate. Someone's running the killer around. Let's go open the gates. You go to unlock that gate. Bang, the No Way Out starts. So then that 60 seconds starts.
Damn.
So and then if you have Remember Me, then the 60 seconds starts, blocks the door, and then it takes forever to open the door. So it can be an end game build is huge with
it's going to be a nightmare if you verse that.
So, yeah, it's going to happen, and I'm definitely probably going to try it out. But 12 seconds as a base, and then 12 seconds per survivor hooked. That's a total of 5 tokens. So 60 seconds. And Remember Me, it's going to stop the doors being opened for a long time.
Yeah.
So, and remember, it's not until it's interacted. So you could be running around for 2 minutes before you actually finally go to a door, and then as soon as you tap that door, bang, No Way Out triggers. So I think that's going to be such a fun perk to see and use and see how people handle that.
Like, I think people want to just like tap the gate just to see if they have that.
That'll have to become a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be the strat now. Like, as soon as the gens are done, tap the gate, check if they got No Way Out. If not, it's fine. If they do, you get rid of it as soon as possible.
Yep, exactly right. No more 99 in gates. We just tap them 1% gates and hope there's no 90. Hope there's no way out. And I guess the other thing that you're excited for is the Strider nerf.
Yes. So Strider is getting a nerf. So the changing sounds altogether with Iron Will. So instead of like Iron Will making you 100% less quiet, it's going to be like a multiplier. So Strider makes it, I think, it was 50% more, but now it's a multiplier. So it's 0 multiplied by 50% is still 0. So Iron Will pretty much counter Strider, which is honestly a pretty huge nerf for Strider. Honestly, I think they should just rework Strider completely, in my opinion.
How's that?
Because I don't think you're going to get much value out of it, because Iron Will is still, it's a pretty meta perk. And if people are running that, people run Strider, I think they should just completely change it to something else.
I do agree. Like, obviously, Iron Will is quite a meta perk, but I don't see it enough to. Well, I do see it, but I don't think. I think no, it's Iron Will. Sorry, like I still think Strider is going to have a really big effect because the one of the biggest things about it is you also, if you're not running Iron Will, you don't actually hear yourself, which is one of the best things that's actually changed now, is you don't hear yourself being louder. So I think this is both a good thing and a bad thing, because I like to know how loud my survivor is, because I like to know I'll be sitting within the killer's, terror radius or quite close to the killer, and I'll be healing or doing something, and I want to know how loud I am, because I need to know, okay, if I was the killer and I was this distance away, would I be able to hear this survivor? Now, with the Strider change, you're going to be able to just sit. You're going to sound normal. It's not when David or Bill's not going to be yelling in your ears when they're injured with Strider, but the killer will hear you louder. So it's a bit deceptive.
You won't know that the killer's running Strider. It's going to be one of those. You won't be able to predict if they got it. Unlike like a Ruin or something, you can see the totem. With Strider, you're not going to know at all.
Yep, you won't know until the end of the game. So, very, very interesting change, which is why I think even if you have Iron Will, you're not going to know. The only person that's going to know, the killer is the only person that's going to know if you have Iron Will, because they're not going to, they're not going to hear you. You're still going to make no noise. So, but it's so good, isn't it? It's such a welcome change.
Yeah. So people who use Strider and Spirit, I use Strider myself. It's honestly, it's super handy, especially when like you're chatting and streaming. Just having the extra volume of Strider is pretty handy.
I've never used it before.
Spirit players will have to learn how to like look for grass, look for little footsteps and stuff like that. Look for blood. There's still going to be like good spirits out there. Just people who use Strider are going to like suffer a little bit.
That's the thing. We were talking about this, and the top of the top spirits, it's not really going to affect because they're already good at playing spirit. But this is going to affect the mid tier to like the lower to mid tier spirits who rely on Strider to be able to hear survivors. Overpowering Iron Will, they're just going to get completely lost now, and they're going to potentially have to actually put some more effort into learning to getting better at the killer.
Or just play a different killer completely. Someone probably do that.
It might happen. Yeah,
be less spirits out there. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, it's spirit is just one of those killers that people kind of feel like they can't actually practice against and learn to play better against. At the end of the day, you can definitely get better against every single killer. So maybe less spirits will mean that people get even worse at playing against spirit because they won't be practicing playing against them anymore. But It's definitely a welcome change for sure. Especially as I said, my favorite part of it, because I don't run Iron Will, is the fact that I'm not going to have to hear my survivor screaming in my ear when they're injured for a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
They're just constantly grunting in pain.
The question is, does spirit have counterplay? What do you think?
Oh, that is
definitely a huge debate.
That's definitely a topic that I actually have a whole nother episode document ready for that.
Oh, do you really?
For us to go over with that one. Yep. So I don't want to get into that too much because that is a whole long episode to go over.
Okay, sweet. We'll leave it for that episode in the future. Obviously, it's a pretty big debate in the community. Your spirit does have counterplay.
It's mainly the difference between counterplay and outplay, which is the two things that I want to go over at some point, and I want to dedicate an episode basically to going over, because there is a difference between counterplay and outplay in terms of killers and survivors outplaying and there being a counterplay to a killer. So I think it will be a really interesting chat to go over. I'll show you the document after we record this, and we can definitely get that out as soon as possible.
Yeah, keen to have a chat about that. Like, what your thoughts on all this? Spirit
I've got
stuff.
lots of thoughts, so get excited.
So do I.
And then the last thing you want to chat about that, the hit detection, and the best diagrams we've ever seen in Dead by Daylight ever released. if you
I can't find the diagram.
if you saw the diagrams,
I did see it.
They were pretty atrocious. So basically, with the while Quixie has a quick look at that, they're changing the way that hit detection through pallets work, and also with grabs. So the main thing with grabs is you see your killer's outstretched hand, ready to grab the survivor when they're on a gen or off a hook save or something like that. And then all of a sudden your hand gets ripped back into your body, survivor runs away, and you get absolutely nothing for it. They are now basically going to have an event in-game where if you go to grab someone and you get rejected for the grab, you will automatically swing your weapon and get a free basic hit on the survivor, and it will count as a grab as well. So you'll get the grab points. If you're doing a challenge that says interrupt or grab survivors, it'll count towards that challenge, but you'll just only get an M1. So it's not a full fix, and they did say it was a band-aid fix until they can work something, a more elegant solution out. But this means that you can complete challenges that you potentially were struggling with, and also you will be getting the grab points. It's very different to getting a free down by grabbing someone, but at least they're trying. So my motto, if you've listened to this before, is at least they're trying.
Yeah,
if the devs try, then I'm happy that they try.
I'm just hoping that they do it. So on the killer screen, if the killer says a hit, are they going to get rejected if survivors throw the pallet on their screen first? I reckon that's going to be frustrating.
The
if you're a
pallet
killer.
ones are going to be interesting. Did you want to? I mean, if you can make sense of the diagram, did you want to go over the pallet changes?
Okay, so the diagram is a bit interesting. So I'm pretty sure. Should we go to the pallet one?
Yeah, the grab one I basically explained anyway. So
yeah, so when the survivor interacts with the pallet on their screen, they throw the pallet, then the server reads that. And if the server reads that first before the killer swings and hits, I believe the pallet will take priority and the killer won't get a hit. I believe that's how it works. It's all about how the server reads it. Whatever the server sees first is what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly right.
But the one I'm super happy about is the grabs. Like if the killer grabs, and you know how grabs are right now, they just don't work. I like it how it's going to force a swing, so you still get an injure. I'm really happy about that. They're not just going to get rejected.
It is good, but it's still quite frustrating that you can get a grab and...
At least you won't get rejected though, and you completely get zero. You get nothing out of it.
So basically with the pallets, they're aiming to address getting hit through a pallet. So latency is the big thing that makes you get hit through a pallet. So you see yourself throw the pallet before you get hit, and the killer sees them hitting you before the pallet's dropped. So what they're trying to do is basically change that so the server will become the judge, as you said. So it gets sent to the server, and if it receives the thing first, then it receives a stun first, then you'll get stunned. If it receives the hit first, you'll get hit. There'll still be hits through pallets. It'll still happen, but the hit validation is basically the same as the one that we have now, the rollback. So if anyone's ever seen the rollback, it's super, super strange. Happens on Huntress quite a fair bit, where you throw a hatchet and you hear it hit the person, and you see it hit the person, you see the blood, and you don't get anything for it. You don't get anything for it.
I had a Billy game the other day, and I downed somebody with my chainsaw, and they didn't go down. They just kept running. On my screen, I chainsawed straight through them, and then they just kept running. I didn't realize at the time. I was like, yes, got them down. Kept running to somebody else, and then they're still up. So I don't know if that'll get addressed. Because I'd say that'd be a similar situation. I'm not too sure.
I think that's just Billy, and then hit validation. The hit validation will just get better.
It's happened to me in the past, though, with Leatherface. It's all the chainsaw killers. And same with Huntress. Like, on your screen, you see the injure or the down, and...
The rollback,
they just keep running.
Yeah.
Even if they scream.
Yeah, the scream, and then you're like, is that a dead hard? And then you're like, okay, they dead harded, and then you chase after them, and then they dead hard, and you're like, hang on, they already used it. They already used their dead hard. That's pretty much everything that's coming in the mid-chapter update, though. Obviously, mid-chapter patch comes, and then we'll probably hear about a new killer in the next coming month as well, because they like to try and hype that up. I think it's already been a month since the Resident Evil chapter's out, so mid chapter comes out end of July, and then by the end of August, I will be hearing about a new killer and a new survivor. So that's going to be super interesting. There is a couple other things just small things that we wanted to touch on. We've been chatting for like almost an hour or over an hour and a half now, so we should probably start to wrap it up. We've obviously got the shrine to go through as well. So did you want to quickly touch on one thing that has been quite an issue? The DC penalty that we've, or the lack thereof.
DC penalty, yes. So that is turned off right now. And on my stream during the week, I noticed it quite a bit. Like the DCs, like people, there's no penalty, so there's no punishment for it.
Well, it does go hand in hand with the console issues that are happening at the moment, and the crashes from the new Resident Evil map and everything. Basically, to sum it up shortly, old generation consoles are having really, really bad frame drops, and to the point where their games are crashing or like just force quitting or freezing or whatever it might be. So it was happening enough that they turned the DC penalty off, because people were just getting punished for the devs not optimizing the game properly on old gens.
They really need to optimize the last gen, because like I've seen some gameplay of it, and when Survivor's dead hard or when the killer gets their power or something, it just freezes for a second and then it plays, and then everything just doesn't run well on console at all right now. So hopefully they optimize that in the future.
But the DC penalty has had such a huge effect on the game since it's been turned off. I have had, as I've touched on a few times, I did a killer challenge where I tried to get as many blood points as I could in 1 week, and I played only killer for that whole entire week. I had survivors DCing because they, just like you were talking to me about before, we click record. Survivors didn't like twins, they DC. Survivor doesn't like playing spirit, they DC. Survivor gets hooked in pretty fast in the game, they DC.
The DC.
So it's just one of those things where you could pick and choose. You're just getting to pick and choose which games you play, and that's not Dead by Daylight like that. It's a random game.
Yeah, because what is it? 23 killers. You shouldn't have to like choose your killers. Like if you don't like a killer, you shouldn't just be able to DC and not get punished for it, because it just destroys that game. One thing they could do, I'd love to see, is if a survivor disconnects, a bot comes into play. Because I know the bot's in the the practice mode. I'd love to see something like that, because I know. Have you played the bot mode?
Yeah, I did. I actually agree that we might start to see that potentially if people DC. We might get some
even just like a substitute, just a bot. Like they do gens. They're not bad. They're honestly not bad. I did play killer against them, and they somewhat they can kind of loop, to be honest.
They are better than some players I've come up against in solo queue.
And they do gens. They do gens. Yeah. So I'd love to see that come into the game. Obviously, that's coming in the practice mode. I think there's a couple more coming out, like more tutorials, I believe, is coming out.
Yeah, that's right. They're going to be more in depth and helping, I think, hopefully with like exposed status and those kind of things that don't really get explained other than just in plain text in the menus. I think in terms of DC penalty, though, both killers and survivors can become frustrated, and obviously you don't want people to be frustrated when they're playing a game. You don't want them to feel forced into playing a game that they don't want to. But you just get to pick and choose. And I had an interaction with someone on Twitter last week about this, saying basically they were saying that they can't wait. They hope the DC penalty stays off forever. And I said I would absolutely despise that, because you are playing Dead by Daylight and knowing that you're setting up for a random killer, a random map. Everything you're doing is random, even down to the gen spawns. If you're playing solo queue, down to your teammates is completely random. If you don't want to play a game with a whole bunch of randomness, then maybe Dead by Daylight just is not for is not for you.
Because like if you disconnect, everybody else in that game, it's pretty much just killer sided. The killer's gonna win. Like if you're one of those, just say you solo queue, your teammate disconnects. What are you gonna do? You don't really have a chance because it's a 4 versus 1 game. As soon as one player gets out of it, it's a 3 versus 1, and the killer has a huge advantage in that situation.
Yeah, exactly right. I also think it's bad because if the killer is getting, I wrote destroyed, but even if a killer is not doing that well, they can just leave and then try and find an easier game. Which again, we don't want to force people. Well, you don't want to force people as a game developer into a scenario or a game that they don't want to be in, but you also people should be learning to get better at killer or.
Yeah, you don't want to encourage people to disconnect and find an easier game. That's not healthy. You should just keep trying. You never know. DBD is one of those games that if things start to go your way, you can honestly win as killer and survivor.
Yeah, we definitely know streaming the game. We definitely know we've had some crazy comebacks and just absolutely insane experiences where you think you're out of it and a survivor does DC right at the start of the game, and then you bring it back 3 people and you end up bring back this amazing victory. So, sadly, it can create more interesting things for us as streamers, but it ruins the majority of people. It ruins their game. The last thing that I'll kind of touch on as well is I believe it allows for that favorite word that everyone has, toxic or toxicity. It allows for more toxic gameplay because people can basically do whatever they want and then just leave without any repercussions, and they can just go straight into another game and bully and abuse, or abuse is the wrong word, but bully a killer, or hide for 20 minutes and waste the killer's time and then just DC out of the game. Obviously, the killer can do it as well, but there are people that have the standard and understand the game they're playing and refuse to DC. I don't DC out of games even with no DC penalty. It's great if my computer crashes or my game crashes because then I don't have a penalty, but I think that they should just work on a way to implement a system that can detect if you have force quit your game or if it's by accident. Probably easier said than done, but
yep.
Yeah, it's become quite frustrating, especially doing that blood point challenge. It was just it basically ruined any chances I had of that game to try and get a lot of blood points during a timed challenge that I was doing, and it was quite frustrating. Another thing that you ran into based on I guess like game time, and this doesn't really have anything to do with DCing, but you had a game where survivors just weren't doing anything in the game. You were suggesting potentially a game timer? Yeah,
so I had a game during the week where I was playing pretty well. I was 2 kills down, and then there was 2, I think it was like 2 gens left and 2 survivors left, and they just decided to hide for the rest of the game. So I was searching around for probably like 5 to 10 minutes trying to find them, and I couldn't find them, and they weren't advancing the game at all. So I'd love to see like a game timer, like 15 or 20 minutes long. If survivors don't escape during that time, the game just ends and the survivors all get sacrificed, because that'll prevent the game just not ending. And because you need the game to end.
Yep.
I'd like to see like a game timer implemented into DBD.
Yep, I agree. Because moments like that, you showed me the VOD before before we started recording, and just watching you walk around for literally 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and having to try and find the survivors.
Yeah, because I was going for my crown as well for Trapper. I was going for my crown, and I couldn't disconnect because I'll lose the crown. Plus, you lose all your blood points, and you don't get anything out of it. So,
plus, we actually don't know whether behavior are tracking disconnects as well. There is potential that behavior is tracking disconnects of survivors over this time with the DC penalty off, and they are going to be enforcing bans or suspensions for people that have been just constantly DCing every game, because it is
an issue.
It is a reportable offense. Like, you can report someone at the end of the game for rage quitting, or however they phrase it in their reporting. So it'll be interesting to see if there are any repercussions, or if it does come back. I do sincerely hope that it comes back, but I'm not going to stop playing if it doesn't. We did have a couple of other really quite small things, or maybe that could probably lead on to bigger things to chat about. Did you want to leave them for next time, Quixie? And did you want to just go over the shrine and then wrap it up?
Okay, so the shrine was daily during I think it was the first 2 weeks of the event. So now it's gone back to weekly shrine. So this week we have, for the killer side, we've got Lightborn and Overcharge. So Lightborn is a hillbilly perk, and it pretty much prevents you from getting blinded by flashlights. So if flashlights is an issue for you, chuck this perk on. You don't have to worry about where the survivors are when you pick somebody up. So not a bad perk. It is free for hillbilly, and hillbilly's a free character. So I probably wouldn't recommend grabbing this, given that you can get it for free. Overcharge is on Doctor, one of Doctor's perks. So when you kick a generator, the skill check is smaller, so it's pretty hard to hit. And if you miss a skill check, there's an additional progression loss of 5%. So combine this with Madness on Doctor, T3 Madness, getting reverse skill checks, it can be pretty nasty to face.
Yeah, Hunter's Lullaby, throw that in there.
Yeah. So out of those two, I'd probably pick Overcharge, given that Doctor is a killer that you have to purchase. So if you were to get one of those perks, I'd pick Overcharge.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Again, the shrine is not super great this week. The two survivor perks are Ace in the Hole and Breakout. I'm not actually too sure on the stats of Ace in the Hole, so maybe I'll get you to explain that one. But Breakout essentially makes the survivor that is being carried, if you're running within a certain distance, like meterage of them, their wiggle bar will increase in speed. So they'll wiggle off faster, essentially. So a lot of people, there was a sabotage tome, and there's also a sabotage daily as well, like sabotage hooks. So people will often, pull out a Medal of Man build with sabotaging with a toolbox or saboteur, and then add breakout to that. So you can take a hit, sabo the hook, and then also the person's wiggling off faster as well. Sometimes just even running next to the killer if the hook is quite far away, is enough to actually make the killer drop the survivor. I think this is quite a fun perk. So if you don't have Yui, I would grab this. It's fun to play in a Swift when you know the perks that your other friends are bringing, if you're all bringing it. I don't think it stacks. But if you all have it, then it can be pretty fun. You're not going to find a huge use out of it every game. But yeah, if you've got some shards lying around and you're wondering what to spend them on, I mean, potentially even grabbing Yui as a character is great. But if you've only got a couple of thousand, I would suggest potentially getting Breakout. We also have Ace in the Hole, as I said, is an Ace perk. So it actually gives you, at tier 3, it gives you a 100% chance for an add-on of very rare rarity or lower. So basically what this does is, normally when you plunder an item from a chest, you just get an item with nothing on it. With with Ace in the Hole, you basically get an add-on that's put onto that item. So with a flashlight, you can get extra battery, or an odd bulb to make the light brighter, faster, that kind of thing. Or with a medkit, you can get extended uses or faster healing, or anything like that. Toolbox, you can get some pretty cool add-ons as well. Extra charges, or repair speed, something like that. So if you are someone that likes to go through chests, I would probably say Ace in the Hole is a good perk to grab. But again, it's not going to be super meta for you to run. Ace as a whole, as a character, is a pretty lucky guy. So he's got some perks that kind of interact with the luck, in terms of gaining extra luck per survivor that's left alive, or something like that. So yeah, I'd say, again, if you've got some spare points, some spare shards. Sorry, just maybe grab that. But it's not going to be one that you're probably going to jump at. Maybe save your shards for next week. The shrine will be changing next week, so maybe it's good to hold on to the points, or maybe save them and unlock another survivor. That'll do us for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for listening along. If you made it this far, again, give yourself a round of applause. Wave to the person that's in the car next to you. Tell them what podcast you're listening to, and tell them to look us up. We appreciate everyone listening. Thank you for accepting that we have had some breaks in the podcast recording. We are aiming to be consistent going forward. We have some different things lined up. You might hear myself and some people. You might hear Quixie and some people. We're going to try and keep it as much together as possible. But if there's a chance that we can, I can record something and Quixie's not available, then I'll get someone in to chat to me. Vice versa, Quixie, if he finds someone to chat to and I'm not available, then you might find that. So either way, you'll be getting a bunch of stuff to listen to, and we appreciate all the plays and listens. There's been so much good feedback for both of us on there. Make sure to come and check out our Twitch streams as well. Mine is Deaxz93, and we have EasyQuix with a Q.
Quicks with a Q.
And Quixie, any final words you want to say and send us off?
Glad to be back. Can't wait to record some more episodes in the future, especially with the new Killer coming out in about 2 months or whenever it's coming out. Great to be back, mate. Great to have a chat with you. And I hope you guys all enjoyed us being back.
Yep, it was great to have you. And I look forward to chatting in the coming weeks. So make sure you take care of yourself, everybody. Take care of yourself, Quixie, and enjoy your games in the fog.
Take care, everyone.